One of the highlights of this year's Melbourne Documentary Film Festival is a film called Cuba, My Soul. And it's my great pleasure to be speaking to the director of Cuba, My Soul, Craig Miller. Craig, welcome to Movie Metropolis.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, this is such a loving look at Cuban music and the influences behind the music in Cuba. How did this documentary come about?
How did it come about? Well, I'd been finishing off trying to build an iPhone app for about 3 years, putting huge effort, and had finally come to the conclusion that this was just not getting anywhere, and could give it up, And in that space, I was asked, I was doing a transformational program called Team Management Leadership. I was asked, well, what would you do if you could do anything? And I said, well, I'd make my film in Cuba. So, so she said, well, great, by when? I said, by the end of this course. It's turned out to be a bit longer than 1 year now. It's actually been about 6, but finally there.
Well, congratulations.
So I just wanted to do it, yeah.
And so congratulations on the film. Now, you worked with, is it Pedro Pulido?
Pedro Pulido, yeah, that's right. Pedro and Jessica, they were the two main people in Cuba that, I went there really not knowing what I was doing. And, Pedro sort of moved up from being the sound engineer to co-director, really. He had a big part in it. And Jessica was just extraordinary, being able to pull these incredible people together and to produce in Cuba, which is no easy task. It's not like in Australia or somewhere. So it was an amazing adventure, and it took a few trips to get it to this point. It was 4 trips. Each time, production value is getting better. But certainly Pedro, he's a great friend, and he really was responsible for pulling it together at the start and causing interviews, big major part.
Oh, and the interviews are so interesting. You've got such really interesting musicians and performances that we see in the film. Tell me about your process in terms of shooting that. Did you have a crew? How did that all work?
Well, yeah, the first trip I took a couple of people. I took Panga, who is a great friend now, but also great Cuban player. So I took Panga and Max. And, in that first year, I was basically producing the thing. In that first year, I learned how to be a producer. What happened the second day in Cuba, I'm there, and Castro died. So Fidel Castro died suddenly. And, I had this sort of naive idea of, I'll do like a travel film around Cuba filming stuff, Castro died. And so there was 9 days of mourning, 9 days where we couldn't dance or film or drink. It was so basically, instead of traveling the island, we went and visited these people in their houses, these amazing people, and I was just amazed by who I was meeting, and they were so generous because they also couldn't go out and play. So that was the start of it, and then really just keep, I just really kept. I just had that vision of what I wanted at the end, something that's exciting and that really gets people inspired by Cuba and takes hold of them a bit. That was my hope. Yeah.
Cuban music is so interesting because of its influences from Spanish and African musical heritage. And you explore that in the film, which I also found very interesting.
Oh, well, yeah, the whole history of Cuban music's amazing. The heritage, it's just so extraordinarily diverse in Cuba. And I could only touch on a bit. There was so much missed out that I would have loved to have shown, but it's very unique. There are artists that have developed all these different styles, and they're entwined in the culture of the people, it's part of who they are.
Certainly is. And I like the way you use some black and white archive photos and some other bit of background info as well.
Yeah, it adds to something. Well, we hope to make it exciting to watch. That was part of the deal. I didn't want it to get boring and drudge it down, And there's so much music to get through.
There is a lot that you cover. And so how easy was it to get funding, or if there was any, to be able to make the film?
Well, no, I've had no funding at all, basically. It's self-funded. And as I say, I went out pretty naively over the years. Costs have gone up, but as also my expectations have gone up. So finally, I'm at a point where it's done, and it is self-funded, and I'm pretty pleased about that.
Exactly. And apart from shooting the interviews and the various performances, getting the sound right, I suppose, is another issue, because you want to have good sound in the film.
Oh, totally. I mean, it's I wanted a beautiful music film, and you would always compare it to the Buena Vista Social Club. So it really needed a great soundtrack, and that was the thing with a music documentary. You have to have the music rights, So I was really aware of that, and that's one of the reasons. What happened is that I invited all these musicians that we interviewed back to actually do these concerts with their own original music that I could film and record properly and license to put on the film. So that's why it's got an amazing soundtrack. And, that was sort of like the X factor, if I can actually bring these people we've interviewed and then you see them playing, and it was quite extraordinary for them as well to do that.
Yes, it was. So well done on that. And technically, I've mentioned some archives, some photos, and the 3D photo effects that you have in the film. Was that easy to create?
Look, you know what? It's a production. It's a team effort. There was some guys in Cuba that did that graphics for me, and Pedro was Pedro's idea to do that, and so that's how that got done. It's certainly a team effort. It's not. Yeah, so they were great, and yeah, I'm glad you like it. We wanted to sort of drag you in emotionally a bit at the start.
Exactly. And did you have sort of any films or filmmakers or other films about Cuba that perhaps may have influenced the style in this film?
Yeah, well, I guess so. I mean, obviously, Buena Vista Social Club, I always figured it's going to be compared to that, because it's about the same topic, and it's included in the film. So that's that was a key film 25 years ago now. So obviously that was something I'm looking at, and that was successful. So I'm like, okay, then I want to reach those people. But Cuba's so much more than that. That's why we've gone from we've shown the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay. So with all the footage that you shot, you said over 4 trips, as you mentioned, and the music and so on. Tell me about your editing process, because constructing the film is always quite a task.
Oh, look, absolutely. And especially a task when really I didn't know what I was doing or what even a lot of the interviews were saying. It was in Spanish, and my Spanish is not that good. So, really what happened after the second year, I had a first edit, and then we went back, and it's really Pedro and Pedro and the editor in Cuba basically, put it together. But it's had a re-edit since then. So it's sort of gone up in stages, but certainly pulling the story out of all those interviews, really what was the school about it? And actually that's been our last step, to really get clear that there's actually a story to be told, and that it's not just like random bits of music. So it took quite a lot to pull it together. A lot of people involved, really.
Oh, I can imagine. And I can imagine that you would have had to not use some of the bits that you filmed, because you have to make decisions, don't you?
Oh, yeah, look, it's terrible. There's so much left out. We had so much stuff. And, when I went, my idea was to grab what I could. So there was a lot of stuff. Yeah, look, I could go back and make another film easily with Cuba. There's so much more I'd love to show, and also time's moved on. But it's just the way it is. It's tough. I just have to make choices, and trust that that's it. So yeah, there's been some cuts, sure.
Of course, you have to make those decisions. What is it that interests you so much or compels you about Cuba and about Cuban music?
Oh, well, I just love Cuban music. I'm a percussionist. I play congas, I love that style. I've played in a song band in Melbourne with Panga, so I love the music for many years. And I love dancing. And, I love the Cubans. Cuban is are beautiful people. You know, they have a difficult life, but it's great fun, and they really enjoy life. So it's good.
Okay. Did you in the filming? You talked about with Castro's death and how filming had to be very much controlled in terms of interior interviews and so on. But were there any occasions in the 4 times that you were there to film Cuba, My Soul, that you had any difficulties or issues dealing with you there as a filmmaker?
Well, sure. Yeah, of course. I mean, look, I certainly didn't have a filming license, and, you know, everything has to be pretty undercover, really. You know, otherwise police do stop you. I think they actually they confiscated our drone once, you know. Not like it was my drone, you know, they have a very controlled, paid for drone with a licensed guy, you know, it's all very tight. So, yeah, they're pretty heavy, the police. So, you know, we just didn't want to upset people. And of course, when Castro died, you know, it was a tough time. You know, they were pretty serious in the streets. You didn't want to upset things, you know.
Okay. And there are some, you go on.
Yeah. No, it's okay. But it's always an adventure in Cuba, you know, like it's Latin America, you know.
Adventure, I like that. Yes, it is. It certainly is. And there are some great shots of Cuba as well. And I'm wondering about the lifestyle of people there now. How are people able to cope with a whole range of economic issues and so on?
Well, you know, it's dreadful, basically. I think for people now, it's miserable. You know, they have no food, and the average person is really suffering now. I think I saw an article saying they were the most unhappy people. But yeah, it's tough, you know, with the embargo and everything else going on, and the politics there aren't good at the moment, you know. So yeah, it's not a great place.
Okay, wow. I suppose you could make a whole other film about the current political situation in Cuba.
Oh, look, you certainly could. And, you know, I avoided anything political in my film. You know, I want to celebrate Cuban culture and the people, and make a difference to the musicians who, you know, really want to see their music out there in the world. So, you know, the politics is definitely there, and it's not a nice politics at the moment. You know, it's not in a good way. So that's the truth.
Fair enough. No, I understand. It's your film is a celebration of the music, and you certainly do that very well. Now, the film is screening at the Melbourne Documentary Film Festival, so you must be really happy that it's been selected.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's been a long time. I've been working on this. Yeah, I'm thrilled, basically, and I can complete the project as well. You know, it's really nice.
So, apart from MDFF, how else will the film be rolled out?
Well, you know, that's yet to be created. I don't know what's possible with that. You know, it's a niche film, so I don't think Australian distributors are going to put in cinemas, and cinemas aren't doing well. So I'm hoping to create some interest around the world. I know there's a massive interest in the Latino and music lovers all over the world and in Europe. So, you know, I guess if I create enough publicity, or if it happens, it depends a bit how the film goes out. You know, I've been waiting. This is my baby, and I'm scared to see how much it's like, but I've done my best. So that's it, you know.
Oh, I'm sure there'll be some overseas film festivals that will be interested in screening the film.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking at doing some festivals and seeing what opens up. You know, maybe I can even sell it online, or, you know, I'd love to go back to Cuba and invite these people back. That, you know, I'm planning all this stuff, but as I say, it's Cuba. It's not an easy thing to get things like that done. But, you know, we're working on it. First step was to get the film out and actually, you know, hope that people like it as much as I'm hoping they will, you know.
Sure. So in terms of your the way you support yourself and so on, what's your day job, so to speak, so that you can get by?
Well, I'm a disability carer. Yeah, so I look after disabled guys.
Okay, how interesting, the parallel careers.
Well, look, you know what, I'm an ex-engineer. I'm actually, you know, I've got a master's in engineering, and I was a research scientist for many years. So I've done a lot of different stuff, computers all my life. And, you know, this job allows me to do other little projects on the side, you know. But now I'm actually, you know, my goal now is to actually retire. I feel, you know, let's make another film. You know, my days are getting on, so I really want to make the most of what's next.
Oh, fair enough. And apart from perhaps going back to Cuba or whatever, do you have any other ideas for films that you're contemplating? No?
Of course, I've already got Colombia on my soul, and Brazil. I spent a long time in Brazil over the years, so the music is, something could be beautiful coming from there. So for sure.
Okay. And
all depends on this film, This is good.
No, that's fair enough. And as you say, Buena Vista Social Club was a sort of influence on you making Cuba My Soul, etc. So, well, congratulations, Craig, on the film Cuba My Soul, screening at the Melbourne Documentary Film Festival. And we've been speaking to Craig Miller, the director of the film. Craig, thanks so much for talking with me.
Thanks very much, Peter. It was great.
Okay, all the best. Bye-bye.